Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what Live Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of Live.
Nice to at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
A new week begins right here, right now, live on a Monday on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A new week begins. A new month begins. It is July, live right here on SportsGrid. In July, we look all around a weekend that was in Major League Baseball, ahead of the 4th of July holiday weekend with a ton of baseball on the diamond for America's birthday and America's pastime. But also in July, DRS, as of yesterday, on the final day of June at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, NBA free agency is now underway. We expected a frenzy. Not many notable deals out of the gates, but a big one in the overnight hours that I'm sure has Donnie Rightside smiling on this Monday morning. Paul George making his way to Philadelphia. We'll break down what happened. We'll go all around the association over these next 3 hours here on the early line.
Yes, we got a lot to get to, no doubt about it. Last week, under the weather, lethargic for most of the week. Had a great weekend here, which included a ton of sleep just to get the people ready for this week. Because do you know why you got to get a lot of sleep, Ben? Because the minute that calendar goes from June to July, it means it's officially the NFL season is underway as teams will report into training camp in about 2.5 weeks' time from now. We got Major League Baseball, the All-Star game. We're just capping off those super tandems that are going to be now joining in the NBA, like in the city of brotherly love. We got a lot to talk about, and I'm excited, and most importantly, I'm refreshed for today.
Are you trying to rub that in my face? Because I had multiple flight delays coming back from the Midwest this weekend, did not land until 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's still here on a Monday on the early line?
I mean, look, just put in a couple more vacation days. That'll handle everything, man. Plug away. Boop, 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 boop. Away you go.
Could have been Donnie and Ranieri for a second consecutive show, but I am here. So let's go around what we saw yesterday in the association. Again, not many sweeping moves as soon as free agency began in the association, but the big one, the summer of Paul George, was only about 24 hours long because PG leaves L.A. after 5 years with the Clippers and has now signed a 4-year max contract worth $212 million to become potentially that missing piece for the Philadelphia 76ers. DRS, as you saw this go down last night, or maybe this morning, what was your initial reaction about the Sixers adding Paul George?
Like, I can't believe we used to be spending this money on a type of player like Tobias Harris, and now we no longer have Tobias Harris, and we have a legitimate threat in Paul George. So we do have a de facto big three, because you're going to see Tyrese Maxey signing one of those max extensions as well, which gives you a legitimate, formidable big three that you can count on each and every night. Now, granted, Paul George is a little bit older, yes. Has Paul George won multiple championships? No. But that is an effective player that can go along with Joel Embiid. I was very happy with that move, and when we are going to take a look a little bit later in the show about the FanDuel Sportsbook and where those odds in the East are now going in the NBA, the 76ers made a good move, and the odds are telling us so.
We will certainly look at where everything has moved around the association because it is important. And we thought Paul George was going to be the biggest market mover the entirety of this offseason. Sad news in terms of the end of an era of the Splash Brothers and the Big Three in Golden State. Klay Thompson will not return to the Warriors. He might sign other places, the Lakers in contention for his services, but his time in the Bay alongside Steph and Draymond has now officially come to a close after 13 NBA campaigns and 4 NBA championships.
Yeah, he's no longer a max player. And what I mean by that is he's not going to be effective at $50 million a year and bring me back to Golden State and let's run it back one more time. But he can be effective on another basketball team coming off the bench, adding that depth, a 3-and-D type guy here to sort of guide you. One of those guys that's won it and done it before. He should be good somewhere else. But I really agree with this move by the Warriors. Don't overspend for Klay Thompson just out of nostalgic reasons. Let him go here. There'll be a better team for that, and Klay Thompson will find a place that he can settle into as well.
He's met with the Mavs. He's met with the Sixers. He's met with both teams in Los Angeles. So Paul George walks away from L.A. after 5 seasons with the Clips. James Harden intends to re-sign with Los Angeles. 2 years, $70 million extension between the Beard and the Clippers to remain in L.A. It is interesting, DRS, because it's a new look in Los Angeles, but James Harden will remain alongside Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, and also they were talking about just over the past 6 to 8 months of how they're just going to re-sign everybody, Kawhi Leonard included, and bring him back and say, you know what, everybody's on that 3 or 2 year timeline, but Paul George said, I want that 4th year. I deserve that 4th year. They didn't want to cave in, and now they lost him for nothing to the Philadelphia 76ers. And also, that's good for the Philadelphia 76ers who, let's just say they went for Jimmy Butler as opposed to Paul George. You have to give up some of those draft assets over the next couple years. They didn't give up any draft assets here for Paul George, so good for the Sixers. Tough call here for the Clippers. We'll see if it works out for them.
As we stay in California, back to the Bay after only 1 year in Golden State, the point guard, the veteran, Chris Paul, is not going to be with the Warriors anymore. He was waived by Golden State yesterday and signs with the San Antonio Spurs. The veteran in CP3, now on the same team as Victor Wembanyama. Maybe you saw the stat yesterday. Chris Paul has won games throughout his NBA career as early in Vic's life as his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th birthdays. They are now teammates in San Antonio.
By the way, I know Draymond Green should be able to have something to say about this on his podcast now that Chris Paul is gone, but let's just go over how this started. It was basically an introductory press conference in a hallway in a hotel that looks like they threw him a practice jersey and then started to ask him about how do you feel about not starting after all years starting in your career. This was a disaster from day number 1, I should say, all the way through. He needed a fresh start. They got it. The same thing with the Golden State Warriors.
We expected Chris Paul to maybe pay dividends in Golden State, that veteran presence in the locker room, a solidified backup point guard. Some injuries last year by the Bay, and of course last year for the Dubs was not one of success. Now from players on the move to coaches on the move. The Detroit Pistons have hired a new head man. J.B. Bickerstaff, after 5 years with the Cleveland Cavaliers, was dismissed after the Cavs were bounced in the 2nd round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. He is now in the Motor City, the new head coach of Detroit, agreeing to a 5-year deal with the Pistons, who, of course, let go of Monty Williams earlier this summer after the big 6-year, $72 million deal last offseason. And some more news for Detroit. They extend Cade Cunningham as well. He will remain the face of the franchise in the Motor City.
Congratulations, J.V. Bickerstaff. In 2 years, right here on the early line, we'll be talking about you getting fired and possibly moving on to your next destination, but that is a guaranteed contract. Good for him. We'll see if we can turn around the Detroit Pistons at this point.
A lot of talent on this Detroit team. They have drafted 5th overall the last 3 years, but they have had the worst record in the association the last 2. Maybe J.B. Bickerstaff is the guy to elevate this Pistons franchise. Around the WNBA now as well. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever go on the road and get a big victory over the Phoenix Mercury. In the first matchup against Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, the Fever win outright on the road, 88-82. Breanna Stewart making history last night as well. The fastest player in WNBA history to 5,000 points. And despite a losing effort, Angel Reese records her 10th consecutive double-double.
Yeah, by the way, watching that almost a triple-double for Caitlin Clark yesterday in a comeback victory on the road. That was pretty impressive. They're learning how to win, which is very important for a young team.
Minnesota and New York, of course, faced off in the Commissioner's Cup last week. The Lynx won it 14-4 with the victory yesterday over Chicago. New York 16-3, 2 of the 3 best marks in the association. Again, Caitlin Clark just 1 rebound shy of the first ever triple-double recorded by a WNBA rookie. We expect that to maybe be a part of the record books later this season. Oh, Wimbledon is underway over in London at the All England Club. Sitting in this chair on Friday, our producer, Joe Frizo. What happens when I head out for a weekend? But he gave me the tennis breakdown. There will be plenty more later on. Free agency frenzy next.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just
Sometimes
did.
The bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
I mean, here's the question. I know hockey players are pretty superstitious. Do they start to ask themselves the question of being like, we signed Corey Perry? We did what?
No.
We signed Corey Perry? Good news, boys. We're going to the Cup Finals. Bad news, boys. We're losing.
At some point, you got to win one for Corey, right?
I guess
Get
so.
on the team and like, wow, this guy, we gotta win one here.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Free agency now underway in the NBA. And in the overnight hours, the biggest move of day number one. A 4-year max contract worth $212 million. Paul George, no longer an LA Clipper, now in Philadelphia, joining the 76ers. DRS, you gave us your reaction earlier in the show, in our opening segment. But this a huge and seismic move around the association. One that was speculated, one that was rumored, and in the summer of Paul George, where his intentions and where he would next land, would he remain in Los Angeles? The two sides unable to come to a deal. Where would he next go? that would probably be the biggest move of free agency. We see it in the markets. We see it in his decision. Paul George now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, good move by the Philadelphia 76ers because they needed something to go along with Joel Embiid. Now, also, are we saying that the Philadelphia 76ers are now the best team in the Eastern Conference? No, we're not. But they'll be competitive and in that mix. And if they're healthy, and also, here's what you're banking on. Joel Embiid trying to stay healthy throughout an entire season. Maybe he takes a look at that backseat approach and says, you know what, I do want to be MVP, but I got to play 65 games, and if I don't do that, maybe it's better for my playoff run. Paul George certainly has been one of those players that you can count on not missing major chunks of seasons, even though he is getting a little bit older. And Tyrese Maxey, who is going to sign a max extension here, you're anticipating him getting even better than he was on the year before basis. The Philadelphia 76ers made some other moves. We'll get to that in a little bit. But for Paul George added to Joel Embiid, that gives them a legitimate force. And you can honestly say right now, even though we still have a long way to go in free agency and the rosters will fill out, it's probably going to be what? The Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, and the Philadelphia 76ers in that top four.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask for at that point. You want to play well throughout the season. You still want to have a team that meshes. You want to get at least 60 games on the court between these three players before you head into the playoffs. It was a solid move for the Sixers. And as I brought up in the opening parts of this show, it's one of those where if you wanted Jimmy Butler, he's a little bit older, right? But you still say to yourself, okay, Jimmy, Paul George, what's the difference? Well, you both were going to have to sign a max extension, but one was probably going to be held hostage by the Miami Heat, knowing that we're not just going to give the Philadelphia 76ers a discount because Jimmy Butler wants to go there and get paid. You would have to give up multiple first-round draft picks. You didn't have to give that up with Paul George, and the Philadelphia 76ers over the next couple of years have some years with multiple first-round draft picks. So you do have a team in place for now, and you didn't give up your future. So I like the move for the Sixers, but again, as a Sixers fan, I'm not saying like, whoa, this is the move that puts us over the top, like, 2004. Hey, the Eagles finally got Terrell Owens. We're headed to the Super Bowl, and they made it there. It's not that type of move, but you can still have really good basketball in the city with a competent team next year now.
And so I think it is about resetting those expectations, right? DRS, when we were together on Thursday after night number 1 of the NBA draft in a very seismic 24 hours for the New York Knicks, the Mikal Bridges trade, the re-signing of OG Anunoby, and where the market had moved, the Knicks had the second best price to win the Eastern Conference, just over $2 behind the Celtics. The C's plus 135, the Knickerbockers at plus 350. We looked at Philadelphia around a 7-1 number, and both you and I said, when Paul George signs, if what had been rumored, Philadelphia being a frontrunner, became expected, which is what we saw last night, we would expect the Sixers' price to greatly shift and alter the Eastern Conference odds as they have. Philly now in front of New York with the second best price at 4-1. The Celtics still remain a short favorite in comparison to everybody in the Eastern Conference, in comparison really to everybody in the NBA to win the championship next year. Plus 145 on Boston. New York 50 cents back behind the 76ers at plus 450. And does this move mean Philadelphia should be the favorite or is right there neck and neck with Boston? No. I think in the conversations after the Mikal Bridges trade about what the ceiling was elevated to in New York City, it's kind of the same question in Philadelphia. Everybody is playing for that number 2 spot in the East. The Boston Celtics are still well ahead of everybody in the NBA, specifically the Eastern Conference. You're trying to compete for that second spot to rival the C's. The Knicks haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. Philadelphia hasn't been there since 2001. The moves this offseason in the past week give them a great opportunity to be in the ECF alongside the C's next year, at least expected entering the season.
Yeah, and that's the goal because, and I said this with the New York Knicks as well when they made those moves. Was I in love with every move? No, but you can't fault, like, the fan base is going to be fired up. The organization felt like they put their best foot forward, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. And there's no guarantee that the Boston Celtics are just going to run roughshod over the NBA next year. Injuries happen.
Right.
Team chemistry happens. Maybe you get fat and happy since you won a championship. Those are all things to certainly play out. And also the injuries that pile up from a season that you go to a championship, like Kristaps Porzingis being out for 6 months or so. But the difference for me me between the Sixers and the Knicks are, yes, Jalen Brunson is a bona fide superstar in the NBA, but it just feels like the guys that they're surrounded with are all bench pieces here, tryhards that can be very good in the NBA. In the Philadelphia 76ers, you have an MVP in Joel Embiid, a multi-time All-Star in Paul George, and an emerging superstar in Tyrese Maxey. So they're going about it a little bit differently here. But both of those fan bases, the Sixers and the Knicks fan bases, should be fired up because both of those teams really improved themselves and maybe have a chance to get after the Celtics. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for because I understand sometimes it's really championship or bust. But what were you going to do if you're the Knicks? Blow the team up because you can't compete with the Celtics for the next 2 to 3 years? What were the Sixers going to do? Go back to the process, trade Joel Embiid and say, well, we can't do anything with the Celtics. We'll see you in 5 years. This was the best route for both of those teams to go, and I like the move for Paul George coming to the Sixers over Jimmy Butler, so I think it was an added incentive for them.
You are completely correct, DRS. The New York Knicks have a balanced and deep roster that is fit perfectly for their head coach in Tom Thibodeau. You would think the star power in Philly. Tyrese Maxey is an emerging superstar. Joel Embiid's an MVP, and when healthy and he can play 65 games, will be in the conversation for that most valuable player award once again in 2024-25. And Paul George is a 9-time All-Star. He is one of 8 players to reach 9 All-Star games currently in the association. That is what he has done throughout his career. Yes, a veteran at 34 years old, just spent 5 seasons in L.A., and the Clippers tried to pair up Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to lead this team to a championship, to that organization to heights they never saw. And we'll look a little bit about the L.A. Clippers on the other side. That didn't happen, but Paul George now tries to provide that optimistic piece, that third and final piece to create one of the better big threes currently in the NBA. We'll see if it pays off in Philly. Elsewhere around NBA free agency, next on the Early Line.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can he be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just
Sometimes
did.
the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
I mean, here's the question. I know hockey players are pretty superstitious. Do they start to ask themselves the question of being like, we signed Corey Perry? We did what?
No.
We signed Corey Perry? Good news, boys. We're going to the Cup Finals. Bad news, boys. We're losing.
At some point, you got to win one for Corey, right?
I guess
Get
so.
on the team and like, wow, this guy, we gotta win one here.
The Bostonian versus the book.
An end of an era in Los Angeles for Paul George back in his native Southern California, trying to lead the LA Clippers to heights this organization had rarely ever seen. A Western Conference Finals appearance, but never beyond that. Never a conference title. Of course, then not a Larry O'Brien trophy. In the idea, DRS, when Paul George was acquired 5 years ago by this Clippers franchise for a lot in return to Oklahoma City, was to pair PG with Kawhi Leonard. They were often, rarely on the floor together throughout playoff runs. And when you look back on the PG trade from OKC to LA, it will go down as one in the last decade that many NBA fans will point to. 4 unprotected first-round picks, another protected first-round lottery pick as well, a couple of pick swaps back to OKC, and namely in return from Los Angeles to Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is going to be in contention for an MVP award next year for OKC. And Paul George, after 5 years of unfulfilled promise in LA, is now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the way it works out. And you take a look at Presti, the general manager in OKC. This was his plan all throughout. You know what? Let me think I can get a player back in the trade that might be able to help us. Who knew it would be a possible MVP candidate? Who knew all of those picks would be stacked up here? And now you have all those coffers full that you can make those moves now to make. But also, you can't fault the Clippers, because the goal in the NBA is to win a championship. If you felt you had that Batman and Robin, you said, you know what? In their prime, let me get after it. I don't mind that move for the Clippers. Now, it didn't work out in the end, because in the end, Ben, what usually happened? Well, somebody was hurt in the playoffs. Somebody got COVID and too many times in the playoffs, and it just didn't work out for the Clippers. I don't fault them for actually going after that move, but also recognizing at the end of the day, the Clippers actually did hold strong at the end, because they could have overpaid for what they thought was Paul George and kept him in town, but they were holding firm to a budget they wanted to stick to for the future of this program, and it didn't work with Paul George. So I do understand that respect as well, but I think technically both organizations won. Why? Because you tried to make a run with Paul George. It just didn't work, but OKC looks like they're fueled up for the future with all those returns they got from Paul George, which included, wasn't just a player to be named later. Like SGA is one of the best players in the NBA. Yeah. So winning the trade, probably OKC, but I don't fault the Clippers for trying to go all in with Paul George and winning an NBA championship.
Staying in Los Angeles, that is James Harden, a 2-year, $70 million deal to stay with the Clippers. DRS, last year, the Clips had the third best price to win the Western Conference entering the season, maybe even second best. They are now all the way down the board at 30-1 outside of the top 8 at this moment. James Harden's still there. Kawhi Leonard's still there. 2-year, $70 million deal. The Western Conference, at least the last 5 years, the teams perennially we expected to be at the top, might look a little bit different entering this next NBA campaign, and that includes the Golden State Warriors. After 13 seasons by the Bay, the Splash Brothers are officially no more. It is the end of an era for Steph, Clay, and Dre. Klay Thompson will not re-sign and not return to Golden State. He has met with various other teams, like in Los Angeles with the Clippers and the Lakers. But after 13 years with the Warriors, Klay Thompson's time in Golden State has now come to an end.
And it should come to an end. And you can't pay for nostalgia in the NBA. That's how you get caught up. Klay Thompson, if he was going to come back like a vet minimum to Golden State, sure, they'd have welcomed them back with open arms. But also, if you are Klay Thompson, you want to stay on that same team. You do want the respect, and the respect usually comes in the way of a paycheck here. He wasn't going to say for anything less than he thought what his market value was going to be. And now, Ben, we're going to find out exactly what his market value is, because he'll be a sought-after free agent, not because you're getting Klay Thompson of the 2014-2015 type season, but you're getting the Klay Thompson, the veteran guy that you can manage his minutes. And if he comes off the bench or starts, you know what you're getting. A 3-and-D type of guy, which, again, his defense isn't nearly what it was a decade ago, and whose is at this point, right? So I think you're getting a veteran presence on your team. He can help somebody, but I say this again. I like the fact that Golden State moved on and was like, hey, come on back to the fold, 3 years, $100 million. That would have made absolutely no sense for them. Good for them to move on. Klay Thompson will find a home somewhere.
He will indeed. We'll talk about Klay's future in the association later in our third hour. After only 1 year with the Warriors, Chris Paul was waived yesterday and then signs a 1-year deal in San Antonio. Year 20 on the horizon for the point guard. He will provide that veteran presence for a young team with this Spurs franchise.
Yeah, it's not bad. Sometimes I like these scenarios here, Ben. We take a look at that aging veteran here. There's a lot of knowledge that can teach a team how to win. Chris Paul should be able to do that here. I like the move overall, and it didn't come all that expensive. 1 year, I believe, $11 million.
A few more deals to break down on the other side of the break, and a look at where the markets stand after the first day of free agency. Whose chances to win a title got better? Find out next.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can he be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game
And guess
time
what?
decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just
Sometimes
did.
the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
I mean, here's the question. I know hockey players are pretty superstitious. Do they start to ask themselves the question of being like, we signed Corey Perry? We did what?
No.
We signed Corey Perry? Good news, boys. We're going to the Cup Finals. Bad news, boys. We're losing.
At some point, you got to win one for Corey, right?
I guess
Get
so.
on the team and like, wow, this guy, we gotta win one here.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Back live right here on the early line. It's a Monday. It is July. It is the first day of a new month. It is also day number 2 of NBA free agency. Some other moves around the association yesterday, DRS, to break down for you. Then a look at the updated markets and the odds to win an NBA championship this upcoming season. KCP, after winning a title in Denver, is now a member of the Orlando Magic. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope makes his way to Florida, 3-year, $66 million deal. Ain't no stopping Obi Toppin. He remains in Indiana. And a few other shrewd moves for the Sixers. Andre Drummond, 2-year deal, $10 million to head to Philly. They also re-signed our guy, Kelly Oubre, the real MVP in Philly. Some may be saying that. And a 1-year veteran deal to get Eric Gordon as well. Again, not blockbuster moves by any means, but a balanced roster outside of the big three of Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George.
Yeah, because you got to have that bench here, and you got to have veteran guys, but also you don't want guys breaking the bank. And in this day and age in the NBA, it's very rare that you see a deal like, I know Andre Drummond isn't like an all-star player, but he's exactly what the Sixers need and probably never should have gotten away from and actually tried to get at the trade deadline last year from the Chicago Bulls for multiple second-round picks. But the Bulls told us that they were still in it to win it at that point and then lost Andre Drummond for absolutely nothing. But again, 2 years, $10 million. Like, did I read that right? Is it $10 million per? No, it's $5 million per year here for that. And also Kelly Oubre, who I believe came to the Sixers last year on close to $20 million. Now you're getting him back also at a discount to stay with that basketball team. So some really shrewd moves along with some upper echelon moves for the Philadelphia 76ers. KCP goes to the Magic, which was interesting. And that let you know, Ben, some of the dominoes that were going to fall because as we talked about, Paul George was also in it and talking to the Orlando Magic. But once they went after KCP, that sort of took them out of the race. And then when the meeting went with the Los Angeles Clippers for Paul George, George, and they go, we're not moving off
Yeah.
our 3 years. It was de facto the 76ers were going to sign Paul George, and he got a Woj bomb in the middle of the night. Valanciunas gets the deal with the Wizards. Toppin is a decent deal here. So we're going to get a lot more numbers coming down the pike today when some of these deals settle in. But I thought the Sixers did fairly well for themselves, and I like that move for the Magic. Get a veteran presence that can fill it up here to go with that young basketball team. What's the one thing we talked about last year with the Magic? Like, boy, can they actually score some points here? This will help them next year.
Absolutely so. And you saw there as well, in terms of Andre Drummond's deal, the Bulls had kind of shopped him around near the deadline, hoping to get draft capital back. There was some reported interest in Andre Drummond from Philadelphia for some draft picks. Instead, the Bulls say we're fully in, trying to be competitive. They were not. Drummond leaves in the summer. Chicago gets nothing in return, as the Bulls have also struggled to kind of ship away or trade Zach LaVine. Big news over the weekend, DeJounte Murray, of course, being dealt from Atlanta to New Orleans. We'll look at the updated markets in just a second. One final point. Kevin Porter Jr., you saw there a reported 2-year deal with the LA Clippers, months after he agreed to a plea deal in a sexual assault case of his girlfriend in Manhattan. He did not play in the NBA last year after the Rockets traded him after he was arrested for assault back in last summer. He was traded to Houston, then from Houston to OKC, and immediately was waived. What are we doing? What are we doing offering this guy a place in the NBA? But I'll leave that at that for the LA Clippers. Now we transition to Detroit, who not only extended their face of the franchise in Cade Cunningham, 5-year deal worth more than $220 million. The Pistons have a new head coach, J.B. Bickerstaff. After 5 years in Cleveland, now the head man in the Motor City. Donnie Rightside, you always say in the NBA, when you are hired as a head coach, you are hired to be fired. And no disrespect to John Blair Bickerstaff, but that's certainly what this feels like.
It does. I mean, to be honest with you, like, this wasn't one of those moves where sometimes when you get a new head coach in an organization, you can put that press release out here and be like, hey, sales team, get ready, because we're going to get some phone calls at people being excited that this is our coach. It almost feels like, when you have Ring Around the Rosie, right? And you take a look like, oh, no, the clock stops or the time stops at that point. It's like, oh, well, we're out at this point, and we just got to find a coach, and hopefully this works out in our favor. Is this an inspiring hire that we're getting for the Detroit Pistons based off that year last year? And also, usually when you sign your young talent, Cade Cunningham is a good player. We're not, going to argue back and forth upon that. He has a space here in the NBA. But after that underwhelming season, you get a coach that nobody is excited about. And like, oh, by the way, we're going to max out our player who has really been underperforming on this underperforming team here. So not a great look for the Pistons. And also, as you always bring up, no matter how bad they are, they can't crack that top 5 seed. So tough all the way around at Little Caesars Arena, and also getting bad pizza in that arena too. Tough scene for Detroit.
Ooh, and a slander of Little Caesars as a pie company there mixed in. Listen, J.B. Bickerstaff the last 3 years led Cleveland to a winning record. The last 2 years, a spot in the postseason. Last year, shorthanded, falling to the Celtics in only 5 games. But he was expected, with the core they had in Cleveland, to elevate this team beyond just a playoff trip or maybe a second-round exit. It did not happen. Again, he can turn around a young Pistons franchise who has finished with the worst record in the association each of the past 2 years. That was the expectation for Monty Williams. It's why they paid him that 6-year deal worth more than $72 million, but then dismissed him after only 1 season. Maybe it works. A lot of money going around in Detroit. As Donnie mentioned, Cade Cunningham, the extension yesterday as well. A new-look L.A. Clippers team, though, entering 2024-25. Paul George is gone. James Harden returns. Russell Westbrook might be on his way out as well. The overwhelming thought in the organization is Russ is done in L.A. There's been some rumors that maybe he is going to the Denver Nuggets, but Russell Westbrook's time seems to be at a close in Los Angeles.
And rightfully so. And by the way, like, I've been around this block multiple times. And I remember when Russ came into the NBA, that exciting tandem duo that they had, and also a trio out there in OKC didn't work out. And I used to coin the phrase that he was the single worst teammate you could have in the history of the NBA. It's no surprise with a guy of this much talent is finding new home after new home after new home, because he just can't get along with his teammates. Why? Because he's used to being the center of attention all the way through. So maybe addition by subtraction for the Clippers now, where they lost George and also now Russell Westbrook. But who cares where Russell Westbrook goes? I'm assured of this. They won't win anything with him there.
Oh, strong words. Donnie right side on Russell Westbrook. We shall see where he goes and what he adds. There you go. So when you look at the Clippers, is it addition by subtraction? The odds makers say not at all. 35-1. The price on LA to win an NBA title before free agency began, and they lose PG. Now 50-1 for the Clippers. You won't even see them on this board. But the big news, Paul George not just leaving Los Angeles, but heading to Philadelphia. The 76ers now the third best price to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy next year, plus 850. $1 behind the Nuggets, who have the second best odds, the shortest out of the Western Conference, plus 750. And the Boston Celtics, again, half the price of everybody in the association, and then some. The Celtics at 3-1. Does Philly, Donnie, in your estimation, feel like the third best team in the NBA, or maybe the third most likely team in the hunt for an NBA title?
Right now, it doesn't, no. And I could be home and be like, oh, man, they should be number 2 out there. But I think they've really improved their team. And, yes, you're going to go on social media like, Sixers got clowned, they got Paul George. But the odds will tell you who's clowning who at this point. The Sixers got better. The Knicks got better. Are they going to be at the top of the race? And Minnesota's going to retool. And you'll see the Boston Celtics probably make some moves. The Sixers got better along with a couple other teams here. Yeah. And it's no surprise. Weren't we talking about just 4 to 5 days ago? Like, oh, my God, the Sixers are tumbling in the standings. We said, wait a minute. Yeah. Free agency is going to come around. The Knicks got that boost from actually hitting first, and now you're seeing the Sixers come over the top. Other teams will improve themselves. The betting markets will settle down, but it's going to be a fun season, at least for me. I get to watch a Sixers team with no Tobias Harris. It's going to be a dream come true for the next 7 to 8 months.
There was a moment on draft day Wednesday after the Mikal Bridges trade and the re-signing of OG Anunoby in New York. The Knicks had the second best odds alongside the Denver Nuggets at plus 750, now tied for the fifth best alongside Minnesota. Oklahoma City at 9-1. That's how we round out the top 5. A weekend around Major League Baseball. Your recap up next.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can he be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just
Sometimes
did.
The bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. He was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
I mean, here's the question. I know hockey players are pretty superstitious. Do they start to ask themselves the question of being like, we signed Corey Perry? We did what?
No.
We signed Corey Perry? Good news, boys. We're going to the Cup Finals. Bad news, boys. We're losing.
At some point, you got to win one for Corey. Right?
I guess
Get on
so.
the team and like, wow, this guy, we gotta win one here.
The Bostonian versus the book.
A recap of the weekend that was in MLB. In the first cycle of the season in Major League Baseball happened on Sunday Night Baseball in Baltimore. The Rangers and the Orioles. The O's looking for a sweep over Texas. The Rangers trying to snap a 6-game losing skid. Texas does that. And Wyatt Langford, the rookie for the Rangers, hits the first cycle this season in MLB. 11-2 the victory for the Rangers in Baltimore. A couple of ribbies for Wyatt Langford as well. In Texas, finally, DRS, back in the win column, plating 11 runs, 11-2 the win in Baltimore.
Yeah, by the way, if you are the Texas Rangers, I mean, you sit there at 38-46 now, and they go, oh, you know what? We still have a chance to win the AL West, which is crazy. And don't look now with the Houston Astros, which we're going to get to, because why the Mariners are absolutely struggling. But you needed that win if you're the Rangers, but also from a Baltimore Orioles perspective. These are some of the games you look forward to and say, we should win these even when we don't have our dominant pitchers on the mound. But you're not going to win very many games with Cole Irvin going 3 2/3 innings and giving up 5 earned runs. Then your reliever comes in behind him, an inning and a third, another 3 runs on 5 hits. You're going to get stomped out. And they did at 11-1. And also keep in mind, this was a lineup that's very nervous right now because Corey Seager doesn't have a fractured wrist, but an MRI, I believe, coming today to see if any ligament damage there, which could be absolutely devastating KO news for the Texas Rangers. It's one of those where you do win the battle, Ben, but I don't know if you're going to lose the war, because if Seager's down, but I preface this again by saying 38-46 for the defending champions. That should be a death sentence right now. But the fact that that division is so bad and nobody wants to run away with it, they're still in it. But you can't lose guys like Corey Seager. So we'll find that if that's the case, maybe a little bit later today too. But big time win for them last night, blowout.
Yeah, big win for them. They avoid the 4-game sweep, but Baltimore and New York, they jostle back and forth for that top spot in the American League East. The O's technically a slightly better win percentage, but one less win, also one less loss than the New York Yankees, who win yesterday for the first time this season with Garrett Cole on the bump. 8-1 the victory for the Pinstripes in Toronto. Aaron Judge adds on to his MLB best home run total, make it 31 long balls this year for Judge, and Garrett Cole solid in his third start of the year. 90 pitches, 5 innings of work, only 1 run allowed on just 3 hits. And after start number 2, where he K'd nobody, 6 strikeouts yesterday in only 5 innings.
I needed that. Much needed, man. Forget about the win 8-1, which you love, to beat the Toronto Blue Jays. They're a team in your own division, but you really needed Garrett Cole. And it wasn't even one of those performances, man, like, ooh, thank goodness. 8 innings pitched, shutout baseball, 11 Ks. He's back. You just wanted to see positivity out of there for Garrett Cole. 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, efficiency, not necessarily there with 90 pitches, but it wasn't a bad performance, which can lead you into the next one where maybe he can go 6 or 7 innings, go over 100 pitches and still be dominant. But also keep in mind, for the Yankees themselves, Kevin Gausman has great analytical numbers at home. He got roughed up yesterday. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, and 7 earned runs, which included 5 walks, and they made him pay for that. But the one thing I got to tell you, are we going to start to get to the territory? Because I saw some of those graphics that are starting to pop up, like most home runs in Major League Baseball history before the All-Star break. And Ken Griffey Jr., I believe, has 2 of those seasons, but right behind him now is Aaron Judge. When are we going to start to get maybe the Bonds treatment? Because there's one thing about a guy that's like, okay, I'm going to hit 30-plus home runs before the break, and I'm going to hit 198 because all I do is swing for the fences, like a Joey Gallo type of plate appearance. But 316 on the season for Aaron Judge, and every single time you watch the Yankees, you see them score, hey, they just put 2 runs on the board. The first thing I think of is, oh, that's probably Aaron Judge went deep. And every day it feels like it's Aaron Judge is going deep. When are we getting the Bonds treatment for Judge? He's that hot right now.
When are we getting the Aaron Judge treatment that we saw 2 years ago as he set the historic mark in AL history? 62 home runs, where during your favorite college football game, they would go split screen. That used to piss me off beyond belief. But Aaron Judge, 31 home runs now, the most in MLB, 82 RBIs, also the most in all of the bigs. Tied for the second best batting average at 316 alongside Shohei Ohtani. Those 2 guys, the front runners in minus money to win both of the MVP awards in the AL and the NL. But Luis Rengifo of the LA Angels, best batting average in all of the major leagues at 317. Big win for the Yanks. They split the 4-game set with the Blue Jays. They are trying to really kind of get back to their winning ways. 54 wins now, second most in all of MLB, only behind Philadelphia. The Phils the best record, the most wins with 55. Fourth game of the set yesterday in Kansas City. The Guardians entered this weekend's four-game set against the Royals as the hottest team in the bigs, but they lose 3 of 4 inside Kauffman. Seth Lugo, 6 innings of shutout work, striking out 10, strike out 10, win number 11 for Lugo, the best in all of Major League Baseball, as the Royals get a big victory over the Cleveland Guardians.
Oh, they did too. And also, one of those things that, maybe Seth Lugo was a little bit of a mirage this year, and dipping back to what we actually thought he was, the type of pitcher in Major League Baseball. Sensational. 6 innings pitched, no earned runs. How about this? 10 Ks, only 1 walk through 93 pitches, and now has that ERA just around 2 once again. But you know what else we liked in that lineup? Bobby Witt Jr., man, 3 of 4 in that lineup. Vinny Pasquantino, 3 of 4 in that lineup. Woo! Sally chipping in with a home run and 3 RBI. It's a fun team to watch. It's a fun team to bet. And yesterday, it all worked out perfectly for them. You got your ace of the staff dominating, the players in your lineup ace hitting, and also you're not beating the White Sox. You beat the Guardians, man. You handled them in that series. That's a great win for Kansas City, who was losing ground as of late. That's a monster series for them.
An RBI each for our guy, the Pasquatch, and Bobby Witt, who showed off the speed yesterday in a triple. There is a lot to like in KC. The Royals needed this weekend against the team at the top of the division. They did get it, but the Guardians still a comfortable lead in the American League Central. 7 games over KC, 6 in front of the Twins. Minnesota winning the rubber match yesterday at home against the Seattle Mariners, on the road in the Northwest.
Yeah, take a look at that. Luis Castillo, 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. And you say to yourself, like, that's a bad, like, that actually feels pretty solid for him based on what he's been doing the past month here. But how about Ryan? 5 2/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts in this game, lowering his ERA to 3.21. The Mariners, who were running away with this division, now coming back to the pack here.
Trevor Larnach, by the way, 3 ribbies yesterday to power things for Minnesota. The M's have dropped 8 of their last 11, which is precarious because the Houston Astros are starting to get hot. They win the weekend against the New York Mets. We'll detail what the Astros have done above 500 for the first time this year next.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can it be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
The bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I think the one comparison that I'd like to make that reminds me of Tiger is Scotty's ability to make shots on a Sunday look like shots on a Thursday. And Tiger was so good at doing that too. In the high pressure leverage moments, he didn't lose a step. You know, he was still able to hit it pin high. He's still knocking down flag sticks. He doesn't miss-hit it.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
I mean, here's the question. I know hockey players are pretty superstitious. Do they start to ask themselves the question of being like, we signed Corey Perry? We did what?
No.
We signed Corey Perry? Good news, boys. We're going to the Cup Finals. Bad news, boys. We're losing.
At some point, you got to win one for Corey. Right?
I guess
Get
so.
on the team and like, wow, this guy, we gotta win one here.
The Bostonian versus the book.
How could you not be happy in the city of brotherly love right now? The Philadelphia Phillies have the best record in Major League Baseball. We'll continue to go around MLB from the weekend that was in just a moment. And the Philadelphia 76ers, after acquiring Paul George last night, 4-year, $212 million deal, extend Tyrese Maxey as well. 5-year deal worth, depending on who you ask, $204 or $205 million. We'll go 205 because we're a Shams Charania show here on the early line. 5-year deal, 205. Maxey gets his payday staying in Philadelphia.
Here's the interesting part about this, too, because when you read some of these tweets out here, and the one from Woj, this does bring up an interesting circumstance, because usually it's the agents pushing for their client to get the most money as soon as possible. But the Sixers on the horizon knew they could use some gymnastics here in the salary cap to try to help their team out. And it stated here, Maxey and his agent Rich Paul from Clutch Sports, the Clutch Sports CEO, waited a year on the deal to allow the Sixers to maximize salary cap space and now land the $200 million plus contract, which Maxey was eligible for last year. It's interesting that you see that, because most of the time it's, I don't care what's going to happen with your team. I need to make sure my client is taken care of through injury, and his money should be there now. So good on Maxey and the agency for saying, you know what? I trust my client is really good. He will get his money and put the Sixers in the best possible spot that they can be in, which now today shows them second or third at the FanDuel Sportsbook here in odds to win the NBA championship in this upcoming season. But Maxey, we all knew he was going to get his money, and here we are on a Monday morning. Maxey's got his money.
Are you saying nice things about Rich Paul after the weekend that was in the NBA draft?
That's awesome.
All right.
I love Rich Paul, man. It's clutch. Coming up clutch, man. That's in the name, then. Come on.
Oh, Rich Paul getting his clients rich. Tyrese Maxey again. The 5-year, $205 million extension to stay with the 76ers. Third best price now on Philly, plus $850 to win the NBA championship. No movement after the Maxey Max deal. But Tyrese Maxey, of course, expected to be in Philadelphia. That's where he remains. Now we go to New York. Rubber match yesterday between the Amazons and the Astros at Citi Field after a delay because of weather. It was a long day. Into extra innings we go. Both teams score in the 10th. The Astros played 5 in the 11th as Houston wins the rubber match and the weekend to get to above 500 for the first time this season. 42-41. The Astros have won 9 of their last 10 games, a winning record for Houston for the first time this year.
Now, I don't know what to say anymore. I really don't at this point. Maybe the Astros, by the All-Star break, are going to be in first place in the AL West, and then we talk about them as a legitimate World Series contender. This is a team that's come a long way, but also you need some help from your friends along the way, and they've been getting that from the AL West, where it seems like nobody wants to compete, and now the Houston Astros are starting to win games. But also, for the New York Mets, I don't know if I got my timeline a little bit mixed up, but I want to say Steve Cohen tweeted out over the weekend, hey, man, something special is going on over here at Citi Field. Come on out. These guys are playing for each other, and then immediately dropped 2 straight games here, including that game yesterday, 10-5. So maybe there's something along with that. But the Mets, we're not giving up on the Mets because the extra wild card, and it's a fun team. They're going to lose baseball games. We didn't expect, like, Grimace to throw out a first pitch, and then the Mets would be in the World Series a few months later. So we're riding along with them.
Kind of we do, though. The New York Mets, a proud organization. In the month of June, the final tally, 16-8, despite losing the first 2 games of the month and the final 2 games of June against the Astros this weekend. And since Grimace threw out the first pitch now nearly 3 weeks ago, 12 of 16. That's how many games the Mets have won. Rubber match between the California rivals in San Francisco yesterday, the Dodgers and the Giants. San Francisco scores 10 and also records 10 doubles against L.A. 10-4 the finale yesterday for San Fran. They take the rubber match against L.A.
Yeah, and one of those guys that's you look at his ERA, which now certainly ballooned to 4.28, but Paxton's xFIP numbers, which means his analytical numbers, were so bad, and every time he pitched, he was literally the worst pitcher on the card, but sometimes would throw a shutout. It caught up to him yesterday. 4 innings pitched, 12 hits, 9 earned runs, only 4 Ks in 89 pitches. The Giants really got after Paxton.
And the San Diego Padres, the only other team in the National League West above 500, they win the weekend in Fenway. The Red Sox avoid the sweep yesterday at home, but San Diego's won 9 of its last 11 to get back into playoff contention. The Brew Crew win yesterday to win the weekend against the Cubbies. A lot of splits. I don't think there was a single sweep all weekend long in Major League Baseball. A competitive weekend, DRS.
No, by the way, and also, you take a look at San Diego, you lose Juan Soto, but by the way, this Jackson Merrill kid playing center field, 3 more base hits yesterday, hitting close to 300. It almost feels like, Ben, every time I check the box score, he either has multiple RBI or home runs here. So that is a find for them, and I like the way that lineup is playing right now for the Padres.
The Phils split the weekend with the Marlins' best record, most wins, 55 in MLB. More on the early line next.